Good Sunday morning. It is October the 22nd, 2017. Welcome to this week's weekly weather briefing, where we do have another cold front moving into the region. This will be one of three going into the next week. So this is going to be a very active week that we are following, and I'm going to be tracking all of it for you. And I'm going to put it in this video here in just a few moments. Right now, temperatures are in the lower to middle 70s. We do have an increase in clouds coming into the region as the cold front nears. We also have a lot of moisture streaming right up and ahead of this cold front. If we look at current dew points, they're in the 60s, which is well above the average dew point for middle to end of October. So we have a lot of moisture in the air. And with this cold front coming in, that's going to boost it just a little bit more right ahead of it. And we have a lot of moisture that is coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, helping to feed into our region what could be another 1 to 2 inches of rain going into tonight. So we're going to be watching that also. But as this cold front nears, it's going to bring with it not only showers and thunderstorms, but very windy conditions, as most of you have already felt today, and that is going to continue into the beginning of this week. Let's go ahead and start off what we're going to be looking at least over the next week. This is the cold front. You can tell all the rain streaming ahead of it right here. And then once we get to tomorrow, or rather Wednesday, we are looking at some rather chilly air to be moving into the region. Notice the 540 thickness line, often referred to as the freezing line, but in this case it's not going to be. It's going to be moving southward and going well into the deep south, so some very chilly temperatures going to be felt not only here but well south of here. Once we get to Thursday, we see another low pressure center form. This is going to go to our north, so we are definitely on the warm sector of this system, but it moves off towards the south and east, and it kind of meanders around, could be producing a rather healthy snowstorm for portions of Minnesota and the upper Midwest, but for us, it forms a very narrow band of rain, and if the cold air moves in quick enough, we could be looking at a couple of snowflakes on the back side of it, but right now I think the rain will move out of here before the cold air arrives. But once we get towards Sunday, we're looking at least that rain going to be out of the region by the time we're looking at the real core of that cold air to be into our region. That cold shot moves out by the beginning of next week, and we're already seeing another reload of cold air moving into the region if we were to go out even further into next week around Wednesday. Here is a look at Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. Notice the very deep trough in the central part of the nation and the eastern part of the nation as well. We get into Saturday, and we're looking at an even deeper area of low pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere. This is going to be signaling to me that we are looking at even colder temperatures to be approaching our region for this upcoming weekend. Look at the temperature anomalies in the 20 to 30 degrees below average range. So this is excessive for this time of the year. We're looking at these temperature anomalies to really be approaching levels that we haven't seen since probably March, levels that we haven't seen since we've seen at least these temperatures. We could be looking at our first frost and or freeze, our first killing frost, at least I should say. We did have a very light frost earlier on this past week, but we did see some very light frost in portions of the region, but it wasn't a killing frost by any means. But this one, this cold shot that is coming in on this upcoming Saturday, could very well produce our first killing frost and or freeze. So something that I'm watching very closely. We're going to have to monitor it, but we could be looking at yet the coldest shot at least of the season. Whether that actually produces a killing frost or freeze is still on the table as a question right now. Let's look at the temperatures over the next 16 days. A very chilly outlook. Guys, if you think this is fall, it's not. This is almost early winter type temperatures. This is not what we should be seeing at the end of October. An average high temperature at the very last day of October is around 64, 65 degrees. And if we look at the 31st of October, it's not anywhere near 64 or 65 degrees. Not to say it's going to be 57 degrees, but at least I am saying that we are going to be looking at a below average trend in temperatures. This very cold air mass that's moving in, something that I have been watching since the very end of September, guys. And I've been really, promoting it a lot on Twitter that we're going to be looking at a very cold end to October, even though we started October very warm. We're going to be looking at that cold intro to November. So I think that this is finally starting to play out. We're finally starting to see this real set-in cold pattern, this really set-in warm pattern that we've had over the last 2 to 4 weeks. This is something that could be exactly the opposite, 2 to 4 weeks of cold. So right now, as far as the next 16 days, definitely trending below average. The question does remain, does this carry into November, and will it remain in November? So once we get towards around the 6th of November, by then, 61 degrees is an average high. and around 39, 40 degrees is an average low. So we're going to be looking at this stair-step warming trend maybe going into the first week of November, but that's still average to slightly below average because we will be stair-stepping our way out of a very, very cold air mass. We could be looking at upper 40s for high temperatures next Sunday and Saturday, and low temperatures in the middle to upper 20s. That is very, very cold air for this time of the year, and something that we are not going to be expecting, especially after this last 2 to 4 weeks of very warm weather. We see that quick spike up to 66 degrees. I think we'll get up to close to 70 degrees on Thursday as that area of low pressure that I showed you earlier moves through Minnesota, eventually brings our cold front on Friday. And depending on where the cold front is, the timing could be really dependent on what our temperatures are on Friday. If we see the cold front moving through earlier on in the day, the temperatures will not be getting really out of the 40s for that day, if not the lower 50s. If we see it come through that evening, temperatures could spike up to around 60 degrees in the afternoon. So Friday is a toss-up, but for sure Saturday and Sunday looking at some very cold air going to be moving into the region. Some very windy conditions I should also mention on Tuesday, as that second cold front moves in, really brings that cooler weather into it. Told you the day today, the cold front would bring slightly cooler air, but once we get into Tuesday, that second cold front arrives. It will be dry, no rain to come with it or snow. We're looking at just cold temperatures to be coming in behind that one. So that one's going to drop us down into the upper 30s. Could be looking at some light frost on area surfaces on Tuesday and Wednesday, but that's if the winds subside. It's going to be so windy on Tuesday that we could be looking at no frost at all, but yet temperatures could be cold enough for it. So a cold, windy morning is possible on Wednesday morning. And then once we get towards Thursday, that quick warm up, and then we really drop down into the very low end part of the temperatures once we get into the upcoming weekend. And I think that the cold air mass is going to really stick around into the beginning of November. Here's a look at temperatures, or rather the rain over the next week. This is combined with rain coming in today, where we could be looking at around 1 to 2 inches of rain with the rain that comes in tonight. And then we could be looking at additional rain coming in for next Friday as that third cold front moves into the region. The second one comes in dry, so no rain to worry about it. But the third one comes in on Friday. Definitely going to be looking at least a narrow band of rain with it. No severe weather to worry about today or tonight or really any of this week, as the very cold air moving in is going to keep us below average with our severe weather limits, and we're just going to be looking at a really set-in pattern of late fall and early winter.